You think you know betrayal? Wait until you hear how my wife's little secret weekend retreat turned into the most insane discovery of my life. It started with some gut instincts, a camera, and a couple of sharp moves on my part. But trust me, nothing could have prepared her, or me, for what went down next. Twists, turns, and a revenge so satisfying, you will feel like you were right there. Stick around, because this story is not just about catching her. It is about how I turned the tables. I never thought my marriage would unravel over a plate of barbecue. But there I was, nursing a pint of beer at Charlie's pub on a scorching summer afternoon, while my wife, Emily, was probably whispering sweet nothings to some guy she met at work. At least, that was my suspicion. The day had started with the news that I was being let go from my construction job. Not because of poor performance, mind you. They were cutting corners, saving costs. I signed the papers for an early termination package, pocketed the severance check, and left without a fuss. I had been in the industry for 20 years, knew every trick of the trade, and could fix or build anything with my hands. But none of that mattered now. What hit harder was how to tell Emily. Things between us had not been good for a while. She was a deputy accountant at a big firm, always presenting herself as the sophisticated, educated half of our marriage. She liked to remind me that I never finished college. Never mind that I quit so she could. I worked overtime, picked up side jobs, and did whatever it took to keep us afloat while she finished her degree. That kind of sacrifice did not count in her book. By the time our kids moved out, our daughter married, our son off to college, it felt like Emily and I were living as strangers. Separate rooms, separate lives. She took my paycheck but treated me like I was just another bill to pay. When I asked her about the growing distance, she brushed it off. I knew she thought of me as a failure, but I kept trying to bridge the gap. I even started doing little things around the house that she complained about, like cleaning out the garage and tidying my tools. Nothing changed. 3 months ago, she began working late. Deadlines, she said. It is the busy season, she said. But I had a gut feeling there was more to it. The way she avoided eye contact, how she stopped answering her phone when I called. I was not blind, just tired. So when she strolled in that evening and casually announced that her company was hosting a weekend retreat at a nearby lodge, I snapped. "Why are you even telling me this, Emily?" I asked, leaning against the kitchen counter. "Let me guess. You will be gone for 2 days, cozying up to whoever you are seeing, and I am supposed to sit here and play dumb?" She gave me a cold look. "Do you hear yourself, Ben? I am not cheating on you. And for your information, spouses are required to attend. So you are coming with me. We will have a room together, and the boss expects everyone to bring their partner." End of story. Her tone left no room for argument. For a moment, I wondered if this was her way of fixing things between us. Maybe she wanted to reconnect. Or maybe, I thought bitterly, she just wanted to keep up appearances at work. I agreed, though not out of hope. I wanted to see for myself what was really going on. That Saturday, we packed up early. Emily was unusually cheerful, even making me breakfast for the first time in ages. I grabbed my camera, claiming I wanted to test out its new lens. It was not a lie. I planned to test it all right, just not in the way she thought. When we arrived at the lodge, a sprawling property nestled near a lake, Emily introduced me to a few of her coworkers. Most were polite, but one guy stood out. A tall, clean-shaven man named Eric. He was charming in that fake way people in sales are, and Emily seemed to light up whenever he was near. I kept my distance but watched like a hawk. I noticed how Eric's wife, Lisa, barely spoke. She just hovered, her eyes sharp and her mouth tight. I struck up a conversation with her during one of the outdoor activities. It did not take long for her to drop a bombshell. "Eric and your wife," she said, her voice low. "They are having an affair." Felt like a punch to the gut. But I did not flinch. Instead, I asked for proof. Lisa promised she would show me the next chance she got. When night fell and the drinks started flowing, I pretended to drink along with the crowd. Emily danced with Eric, and I watched, quiet and sober. By the time they thought I was too drunk to notice, they slipped away. I waited 5 minutes, then followed. It did not take long to find them, locked in an embrace outside one of the unused cabins. My camera caught everything. Every kiss, every whispered promise. I was angry but not stupid. I left them there, went back to the main hall, and made sure the rest of the night passed without a hitch. No shouting matches, no confrontations. That would come later. As the retreat wound down the next morning, I had a plan. A plan that would make sure neither Emily nor Eric forgot this weekend. The next morning, I pretended nothing was wrong. I helped Emily pack our things and even made small talk with a few of her coworkers. Meanwhile, Eric avoided eye contact with me, and Lisa was nowhere to be found. Emily thought she had me fooled, but she did not know I had spent half the night downloading the photos and videos from my camera. Every betrayal captured in crisp detail. On our way back, Emily kept asking if I enjoyed the weekend. I just grunted and nodded, letting her think I was too tired to talk. She seemed relieved, probably imagining her little secret was safe. But my silence was not forgiveness, it was strategy. When we got home, I told her I needed to run errands. She barely looked up from her phone, mumbling something about work emails. I loaded up the truck with tools and boxes of my things and headed straight to a storage unit I had rented earlier that week. I did not know where I would end up, but I knew I would not be staying under the same roof as her any longer. By the time I got back, she was already asleep in her room, and I felt a strange calmness as I wrote a note to leave on the kitchen counter. Emily, you will not find me here when you wake up. I know about you and Eric. Do not call me. Do not look for me. I will reach out when I am ready. Then, I left my wedding ring on the table next to the note and walked out the door, feeling lighter than I had in years. I spent the next few days staying in my garage. It was not glamorous, but it was mine. I had a mini fridge, a cot, and plenty of time to think about my next steps. I turned off my phone to avoid the flood of calls and messages I knew would come. The only people I contacted were my daughter, Mia, and an old college buddy, Paul. Mia was 8 months pregnant, so I did not want to stress her out, but I wanted her to know the truth. When I called her, she sounded worried. Dad, are you sure about this? She asked after I explained everything. I mean, what about Mom? Does she even know where you are? She does not need to know, I said firmly. Mia, you have seen how things have been between us. This is not a rash decision. It has been building for years. She sighed. Well, I support you. But if you need anything, money, a place to stay, you let me know. Okay? And maybe give Mom a chance to explain. I will think about it. I lied. After hanging up, I called Paul. He ran a small construction company and had offered me a job before. When I told him I was finally available, he laughed. About damn time, Ben. You were wasting your talents with those corporate clowns. I agreed to meet him the next day to discuss the details. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was taking control of my life. Emily's calls started flooding in the following morning. I turned my phone on briefly to check for updates from Mia and found over 30 missed calls and a slew of messages. Some were angry, some apologetic, but all of them revolved around one theme. Come home. Let us talk. I deleted them all without replying. By midweek, Mia called me again. Dad, Mom came by, she said hesitantly. She was asking about you. What did you tell her? I asked. The truth, that I do not know where you are, and even if I did, I would not tell her without your permission. She paused. But, Dad, she seemed broken. She should be, I replied. Mia, I know she is your mother, and I am not asking you to pick sides. But I cannot just pretend everything is fine. I understand, she said softly. Just promise me you will not shut me out too. I would never, I assured her. That weekend, I drove out to Paul's office. The job he offered was solid. A project manager position overseeing residential renovations. It paid well and gave me the chance to use the skills I had honed over the years. Best of all, it was a fresh start. As I was leaving his office, my phone buzzed with a text from Mia. It was a photo of her holding a tiny baby wrapped in a blue blanket. The caption read, Meet your grandson, Henry. Tears welled up in my eyes as I stared at the screen. For the first time in weeks, I felt a rush of pure joy. I called Mia immediately, and we talked for hours about the delivery, how Henry was doing, and what she needed from me. Dad, she said at the end of the call, Mom knows about the baby now. She wants to visit. She can visit, I said carefully, but I will not be there. Mia hesitated. She said she wants to fix things with you. She had her chance, Mia. My priority now is you and Henry. As I hung up, I felt a sense of finality. My old life was behind me, and I was ready to move forward. I had no idea that Emily had her own plans to force my hand. The following week, I settled into my new routine. Between starting my job at Paul's company and visiting Mia and baby Henry, I barely had time to think about Emily. But of course, she made sure to remind me. One evening, as I was unloading tools from my truck, a familiar car pulled up outside the garage. Emily stepped out, looking more put together than I had seen her in years. It was almost as if she had rehearsed this encounter. Ben, she started, her voice calm but shaky. We need to talk. I crossed my arms, leaning against the open garage door. There is nothing left to talk about, Emily. She flinched but pressed on. I made a mistake, all right? I was stupid and I let things get out of control. But I want to fix this. We have too much history to throw it all away. I laughed bitterly. You want to fix this? After sneaking around with Eric for months? After humiliating me in front of your coworkers? Do you even hear yourself? Her face flushed with embarrassment. It was not serious, Ben. I swear. It was just, I do not even know, a distraction. It did not mean anything. Funny, I said, because the photos and videos I took sure make it look like it meant something. Her eyes widened in shock. You have photos? Videos? That is right, I said, stepping closer. I have proof of everything. Every lie, every kiss, every secret meeting. So do not stand here and try to spin this like it was nothing. For a moment, she looked like she might crumble. Then her expression hardened. Fine. If you want to drag this into court, go ahead. But I will not let you ruin me, Ben. I have worked too hard for my career, and I will not let your bitterness destroy everything. I shook my head. This is not about bitterness, Emily. It is about consequences. Something you have clearly never faced. She stormed back to her car, slamming the door so hard it echoed down the street. As she drove off, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. This was not how I imagined my life turning out, but I was done living in denial. The next day, Mia called again, this time with a warning. Dad, Mom is up to something, she said nervously. She has been asking around about your job, your plans. She even hinted that she might show up here. She will not bother you, I promised. If she does, I will make sure it stops. Just be careful, Mia said. I do not trust her right now. Neither did I. A week later, the showdown I had been dreading finally happened. I had just finished overseeing a kitchen renovation when Paul pulled me aside in the office. Ben, he said carefully, we have a problem. What kind of problem? I asked. He sighed, rubbing his temple. Your ex-wife, or whatever she is, showed up here. She made a scene, claiming you were using the company to launder money or some nonsense. I blinked in disbelief. Are you serious? Dead serious, Paul said. She even threatened to report us to the authorities unless I fired you. And what did you tell her? Paul grinned. I told her to shove it. I know you, Ben. You are one of the most honest guys I have ever worked with. But you need to deal with her before she causes more trouble. I nodded, my jaw tight with anger. It was clear Emily had crossed a line, and I was not going to let her drag my new life down with her. That evening, I called Emily for the first time since I left. She picked up on the second ring. Well, this is a surprise, she said, her tone smug. Cut the games, Emily, I snapped. I know what you pulled with Paul, and it stops now. Oh, come on, Ben, she said, feigning innocence. I was just trying to protect myself. You have been so secretive, and I was worried you might try to sabotage me. Sabotage you? I repeated, barely able to contain my fury. You are the one who sabotaged us. Do not forget that. And if you come near my job or my family again, I will not just walk away quietly. I will drag you through court with every piece of evidence I have. Her silence was telling. For once, she seemed to realize I was not bluffing. "Fine," she said finally, her voice icy. "Have it your way. But do not think for a second that I will make this easy for you." The line went dead, but I did not care. She could scheme and threaten all she wanted. I was done playing her games. By the time the divorce papers were filed, I had built a solid case against her. The photos and videos, combined with witness statements from Lisa and a few of Emily's co-workers, left no room for doubt about her infidelity. Emily tried to fight it, of course, but the evidence was stacked too high. When the court date finally arrived, she barely looked at me. The judge ruled in my favor, granting me a clean break and allowing me to keep the savings I had worked so hard for. As I walked out of the courthouse, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. My life was mine again, and for the first time in years I was free. Later that week, I sat with Mia and baby Henry, watching her husband fuss over the tiny bundle in her arms. "You look happy, Dad," Mia said with a smile. "I am," I admitted. "And I owe it to you too." "No," she said, shaking her head. "You did this for yourself, and you deserve it." Looking at my grandson, I knew she was right.